person who was called in the Bible was Matthew. And in Luke 6, 13 through 16, it says, "The next day he," being Jesus, "summoned his disciples, and from them he selected 12 he designated as apostles. They were Simon, whom he named Peter, Andrew his brother, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, son of Alphaeus, Simon called the Zealot, Judas, son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who will betray him." These men were picked, hand-picked. Notice there were more disciples. It says right here, Jesus called all of his disciples, and then he picked those 12. He picked a man named Matthew. A man, he wasn't a great man. He wasn't a rich man. He wasn't a well-known, he wasn't a superhero, he didn't wear a cape, he wasn't made of kryptonite or could fight off kryptonite. No, he was just an ordinary man. And Matthew was called to be a disciple, to be an apostle. All right? How many of you here have leaped a tall building in a single bound? Are you faster than a locomotive? All right? And I'm not trying to put anybody down, but everybody here, are we really much of anything? We're nobodies. We could walk in a crowd and nobody would have a clue our name. But we've been called to do the greatest thing ever known to mankind. And that's to share Jesus' name. And with great, great honor, with great responsibility, whatever Spider-Man they always say. There's a great responsibility that goes behind that. Because you have to talk. You have to go out. You have to step out. Coming here and doing this morning, yeah, this is stepping out of my comfort zone. Okay? I said, I do middle school kids. My administrator says I have a middle school mind. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think like middle schoolers. And now you're putting me in front of a bunch of adults. Not quite as easy for me. But it was a call. I was called. My name was called. Darlene called me. Tabetha. Oh, she used my name. She didn't even use Tabetha Jean Frick, so I was okay. I answered the call. To do this. He called me to step out and be a disciple this morning. Now, sometimes God, when he calls, decides to give you a totally new name. And there was a man named Peter, who in Mark 3:16, it says, "These are the 12. Simon, who Jesus later named him Peter, meaning rock." Now, it's not that Jesus didn't like his name. Jesus needed to give him a new name that had meaning and power to it. It's kind of a shame nowadays when people name their kids, they don't have a clue what the names mean. They just start sometimes just throwing letters together, I think. Scrabble. Okay, there's some letters, there's a name. Other times it's just maybe it's a family name, but there's not a lot of history to names. My students, we actually did a history of their names. They thought it was so fascinating because nobody had ever told them your name means something. And of course, they got a kick out of Mrs. Frick's name. My name, Tabetha, is actually Aramaic. It actually has a Hebrew name. Tabetha was in the Bible. My Hebrew name is Dorcas. You can imagine with a bunch of middle school boys just how far that went. They just rolled and laughed about it until they finally realized that Dorcas has a meaning as well. Dorcas actually means with the grace of a gazelle. Tabetha in the Bible was a very well-loved person. She was very caring. She helped anybody and everybody. As a matter of fact, when she died, the people around her were so upset, they went and got Peter and said, "You gotta make her come back. We can't live without her. You gotta make her come back." And Tabetha was raised from the dead. So I actually was very proud of that. Then I also went on to tell them the story about how my mom and dad figured they were having a boy up until the time my mom was in labor. And all of a sudden they had this idea of, ooh, what if we have a girl? Of course my dad was convinced it wasn't going to be, but my dad, off the top of his head, came up with the name of Tabetha. And then as I said a while ago, he pronounced it Tabetha. And then I have a middle name of Jean, which is my mom's middle name. which has been passed down to my daughter, which is her middle name.
One of them.
One of them, my daughter has two middle names because of another story about my husband and I, at the time, my ex-husband, were arguing over what her middle name was going to be, and after 36 hours of labor, I said, I don't care, give her both. Just get her out of me now. So, she has two middle names. But my name is something special to me. My daddy named me. My daddy pronounced my name. And then I found out my name had a meaning. Peter's name, Simon, was changed to Peter, which was rock. Now, if anybody knows the story of Peter, Peter had hoof and mouth disease. Every time Peter turned around, that foot was in his mouth. That poor boy couldn't get a break. So I'm guessing that the time the disciples were probably in the background going, rock, yeah, right. Yeah, no, we don't see it. However, Peter became the rock. Jesus is the cornerstone of our Christianity, of our religion, He is the cornerstone to Peter. But Peter was kind of the foundation. After that cornerstone, which is the most important part of the foundation, I'm not taking any glory away from Jesus right now, please be with me. Peter is what everything was built on. Peter is the one that afterwards went out and started the revulsion, depending on your revolution if you want to talk about it. It's where it started. He was that rock. He knew after Jesus died, okay, I know what my name means, I'm gone. So he lived up to his name. Now, I said that sometimes it's kind of rough being called by our names. And there was one man who really did have it kind of rough. And his name was actually Saul. Now, if ever there was a bad guy in the Bible, Saul proclaims he was it. Alright, Saul was a Jew. He was not only a Jew, he was up there with those Pharisees, Sadducees. He was the Jew of all Jews. He was so Jewish, he went out and got letters saying, I have the right to come into your house and kill you because you're not a Jew. Alright? He was down and dirty, one of the meanest people you probably could come up with. However, there's this little road, you may know, it's called Damascus. And this man, Saul, who thought he was just so bad and so big and so tough, was struck down on that road by a bright light. Now, nowadays we would have said, oh my gosh, it's a UFO. It wasn't. As a matter of fact, it's kind of funny because Saul knew who it was. It actually says, he called it out, my name, Master. It says, the blinding of Saul. At this time, Saul was breathing down the necks of the Master's disciples, out to kill them all. He went to the chief priest and got arrest warrants to take to the meeting places in Damascus, so that if he found anyone there belonging to the way, whether men or women, he would arrest them and bring them to Jerusalem. Now he set off, and when he got to the outskirts of Damascus, he was suddenly dazed by a blinding flash of light. As he fell to the ground, he heard a voice, Saul, why are you out to get me? And he replied, who are you, Master? That seems like a funny question. Who are you, Master? Is he asking, are you Master? I don't think so. It was an action. Who are you, Master? What have I done? It says, I am Jesus, the one you're hunting down. I want you to get up and enter the city. And in the city, you'll be told what to do next. Now his companions stood there totally dumbstruck. They could hear the sound, but couldn't see anyone. And while Saul, picking himself up off the ground, found himself stone blind, they had to take him by the hand and lead him into Damascus. And he continued blind for 3 days. He ate nothing, and he drank nothing. Now comes the poor man that was called. You got to feel sorry for this guy. There was a disciple in Damascus by the name of Ananias. Now the Master also went to him and spoke to him and said, Ananias. And of course he's like, yeah, Jesus is calling me. Yes, Lord, what do you need of me? I need you to go take care of Saul. Who? Saul. Lord, do you know what Saul's been doing down here? Dude, let me tell you, not a good thing. You may have missed it, I don't know, but he's out killing people like me. And you want me to do what? You know, big bright lights say what? Well, his wisdom, said, yep, sorry, I need you to go to him. And when you do, you're going to bring him into your house. And you're going to take care of him. Because he's about ready to go on an adventure that he has never, ever, ever dreamed of. Thank goodness Ananias did what he was told. He went. He got Paul. He took him in. God changed his name to Paul. And did he ever send him on the adventure of a lifetime. I don't know how much you know about poor Paul, but Peter always had hoof and mouth disease. Paul always had I'm dying disease. Every time he turned around, there was somebody there to throw him in prison, stone him, hang him, crucify. They just were out to get this, which is kind of funny if you think about it. What did Paul do when he was Saul? He was out to get everybody and kill everybody. Yeah, be very careful, because when those coin turns over, now everybody was out to kill him. Point is, Jesus called all these people by name.